Welcome to the fog-shrouded realm of Dead by Daylight, where the line between life and death blurs, and the pursuit of survival is both relentless and thrilling. In How to Survive a Dead by Daylight Beginner's Handbook, we embark on a journey into the heart-pounding world of this asymmetric horror game. Whether you're a newcomer nervously stepping into the fog for the first time, or a fledgling survivor seeking to hone your skills, this guide is your essential companion. Join us as we navigate the ominous trials, unravel the mysteries of the entity, and equip you with the knowledge to outwit, outrun, and outlast the relentless killers. Are you ready to face the terror and emerge victorious? Or will you succumb to the darkness? Your survival starts here. Today, we are going to be talking about the order in which I recommend prestiging certain characters. And to begin with, we are going to be talking about Feng Min, who comes with 3 brilliant perks, all situational, because you can have Technician as being you're doing gens, learning gens, getting used to doing skill checks, so it's a great beginner perk, to be honest. You can also use Life, or Leaf, however you say it, which can be used as a looping perk, as it activates a sprint burst when you jump over a vault. You then also have Alert with Feng Min, which means when the killer performs a break action, they will reveal that the aura of that killer will be revealed for 5 seconds when you get it at tier 3, like I already have, because she is my main, so I've pretty much just been leveling her, other than the ones I've been making all P1. But those are 3 brilliant perks. I would recommend probably doing her first. I would recommend. The second person I do want to talk about in prestige order is Meg Thomas. She comes with probably one of the best perks in the game, Adrenaline. It is a very brilliant perk to have, and basically means when the final gen is completed, you will go up 1 health state. So if you're injured, you'll go back to being normal. If you're downed and being slugged by the killer, you'll go to being injured. It basically is such a crucial perk in most of my builds when I'm just building a normal build for just playing the game. Instead of not going for a certain playstyle, I always have Adrenaline on me, because you never know when you're going to need that extra health state that it will give you when you are injured or anything like that, because you could be in chase with the killer and then be hit by the killer, and just as they do that hit, you could then instantly get that health state back from someone completing the last gen. Or, as I've seen in a friend's TikTok, he was downed just as the last gen popped, so he was instantly brought back up into the injured state. We also have Sprint Burst, which I'm realizing she has 2 perks that causes exhaustion, but basically what Sprint Burst does is when you press the sprint button, so for me this is shift, I think on controller it's just clicking down the left stick. I can't remember because I haven't played it on controller for ages. It basically, when you've done that and pressed the sprint button, it sends you into a sprint at 150% of normal speed for the maximum of 3 seconds, but then also causes exhausted for 40 seconds after. And the downside to it causing exhausted is it means if you have Adrenaline and you are injured or downed just after you've done Sprint Burst and then the final gen pops, you will not get the full benefit of Adrenaline, because any Okay, no, actually, rereading it, you do get it, because it ignores the exhausted status. So you could have Sprint Burst and Adrenaline in a build and still get Adrenaline even after you've got the exhausted for 40 seconds from Sprint Burst. You then also have Quick and Quiet, which means when you go over a vault, you go into a locker, anything that causes noise or audio range, anything like that, is reduced by 100% to being, I want to say it's 100% silent. And this can only be triggered once every 20 seconds. The next survivor I want to talk about, as the one you should prestige quite early, is Dwight Fairfield. And he comes with Bond, Prove Thyself, and Leader. 3 perks that are brilliantly done. Bond basically reveals the aura of your allies within 36 meters when you have it at very rare tier 3. You then have Prove Thyself, which for every other survivor working on a generator within a 4 meter range, so they have to be on the same generator, in other words, they gain 10% repair speed bonus. So if you are, let's say, in Killer Shack on that gen that can spawn in there, you can have 4 people on there, so that's an extra 30% for those 3 people technically. Because it stacks between each person on that gen. So having 4 people on the gen, 1 having Prove Thyself, the other 3 will then get 10% bonus, basically making that this perk gives you a 30% repair bonus technically, in a way. And then you have Leader, which increases other survivors' healing, sabotage, unhooking, cleansing, opening exit gates, pretty much increases everything by 25% when they are within 8 meters. So you could be healing someone, if you've got Leader and you're healing someone with someone else, because you can have 2 people healing 1 person at a time, they get an increase of 25% on that healing. And also persists for 15 seconds after leaving the range of 8 meters. Another person I want to talk about is Bill. More than anything, it's his Unbreakable perk, which basically means if you are downed, you can only do this once per trial as well. If you are downed, then you can actually get yourself up from the dying state once per trial, but it also increases dying recovery speed by 35%. So you'll have your normal speed, which is reasonably quick, but then you'll also have that extra 35% added on top. And I'm not yes, Borrowed Time is also another good perk that Bill has, because you keep your endurance for an extra 10 seconds when this is maxed out, and also you get a movement speed bonus for 10 seconds more. And situational with Left Behind, it can be a good perk, it can be a bad perk, depending on how matches go for you. If you are the last survivor remaining in a trial, you can see the aura of the hatch within 32 meters. I do also want to point out that this perk isn't needed in most builds, because you can actually hear the hatch anyway. So when you're nearby, you can actually hear the hatch. And if you have good headphones, you can actually tell what direction the hatch is in from your location. Another survivor I want to talk about is Renato Lyra. and mainly because of his background player perk. And if you guys have watched the flashlight saving video from the other week, you will know that this is a crucial part of that build. Background player basically sends you into a running sprint of 200% of your normal running speed for 5 seconds when the killer picks up a survivor. So you could technically use this as a normal perk and be able to get around the map a bit quicker when they are picking up a survivor, or as shown in the flashlight saving video, you can use it in that to be able to get into front of the killer super quickly. Another person I do want to talk about, he has released recently, is in fact Alan Wake. And his Champion of Light skill, or perk should I say, basically you get 50% haste when shining your flashlight. So holding it up, trying to blind the killer, you get 50% haste when doing that. And also, if you manage to blind the killer, you get they get a 20% hindered for 6 seconds. So it basically slows them down. It's like it's a blast mine, I think it's called. It's an Ellen Ripley perk. It is chemical trap, which also, I believe, slows them down for 50% for 4 seconds. But that's not the only Alan Wake perk I want to talk about. I also want to talk about his deadline challenge. Well, not challenge, his deadline perks. Because there are quite a few challenges that pop up in the tomes and that sort of stuff that want you to do skill checks. And what deadline does, it increases your chances of getting more frequent of skill checks appearing 10% more frequent when repairing or healing and appear in random places. So the only downside to this is that the skill check changes location every time you're looking at it, every time it pops up. So that is something you need to be careful of. Another survivor I do want to talk about is Rebecca Chambers. And primarily, 2 of her perks I want to talk about. The first one being Hyper Focus, which I believe, if I showed it right, was in my Gen Jockey build. And basically what it does, every time you hit a great skill check when repairing or healing, you can gain up to 6 tokens in this, and each token increases the chance of a skill check trigger by 4%. So basically, every time you get a new skill check, and if you hit a great one, another one will appear quite quickly after, and also the speed of the cursor in the skill check will increase by 4% per token, I believe. And the bonus progression for great skill checks is increased by 30% of its base value. And another perk I want to talk about is a bit more altruistic. It is Reassurance, and that basically means when you run past a person on hook, you can basically pause their struggle for 30 seconds, meaning if they're, let's say, in second, they're not going to be getting the skill checks to be keeping them alive, because that's going to be paused. If they're in phase 1 of being hooked, that is completely paused for that 30 seconds, giving them extra time to be unhooked. So you could be in chase, run past the hook, and try and lead the killer away from the hook, while someone else comes along after you've used Reassurance and unhooks them. Who else is there? Another survivor I want to talk about. This guy has at least 2 good perks. We have Breakouts and Distortion. I've not really looked into Aftercare, so I can't really say much about it. But Breakdown basically means when you are unhooked from a hook while having Breakdown, you see the killer's aura for 6 seconds, and also the hook you've just been taken off is broken for 180 seconds. That's 3 minutes of that hook being unusable. You also have the perk Distortion, which means you start the trial with 3 tokens, and any perk the killer has that would reveal your aura. So you've got Barbecue and Chili, you've got, I think it's called Friends Till the End or something. It's a Chucky perk that changes the obsession each time, or can reveal the aura of the obsession. Basically, any perk that has your aura revealed by the killer will be cancelled out, basically, providing you have tokens. And to gain more tokens, all you have to do is be within the terror radius of the killer for 10 seconds, I believe it is, or something like that. Oh no, you regain a token for each 30 seconds, with the max tokens being 3. I don't often see anyone drop lower than 1 token in there, but it all depends on how well the killer's doing, how often they're revealing your aura. Not to forget someone, but we do also have Kate Denson. Her perks are Dance With Me, Windows of Opportunity, and Boil Over. I would probably put her, I'm probably putting her too late in this anyway, but I would probably put her in order of doing everything. You probably want to go for Meg, Feng, Kate, in that order. And we're going to talk first about Boil Over, basically meaning that when the killer picks you up, they can't see any hooks within 16 meters. You can't see the aura of those. Your struggle for the killer is also increased by 80%, and you gain 33% of your current wiggle progress when the killer drops from a height. So if they drop off a balcony, a hill, anything that causes them to drop will increase that wiggle progress by 33%. We're then going to move on to Windows of Opportunity, which shows all auras of breakable pallets, breakable walls, and vaults within 32 meters. So basically, it's a great perk for learning the map, learning how to loot killers, and other stuff like that. It can also be a good perk to use to know where you're going to go to next when looping, or just trying to find a pallet to get rid of the killer and stun them. You then also have Dance With Me. Performing a fast vault or leaving a locker in a sprint, you leave no scratch marks for 3 seconds, and then it goes on cooldown for 40 seconds. It is a very good perk because if you have it and you're looping the killer and you want to change loop, you can then vault over, let's say, the window in Shack, and you won't leave scratch marks. You could hop into a locker and it won't leave scratch marks when you come out of it. And you can also pair this with, whose perk is it? You can also pair this with Meg's Quick and Quiet, meaning any vault or hide actions leave no noise. You can pair the two, Dance With Me and Quick and Quiet, together to make basically a ninja build. You can pair those together with Jonah or Jeff's Distortion, and you have a little bit of a build that does increase your stealth. Another survivor I want to talk about that you probably should prestige quite soon is also Ashley J. Williams, who is part of the Evil Dead pack. I do think he's in the Evil Dead DLC pack. And I want to talk mostly about his flip-flop perk, which basically means while you're in the dying state, 50% of your recovery progress is converted to wiggle progress. Basically meaning if you put flip-flop with boil over, you kind of get it quite strong. You kind of get the mix of the two together, getting the boil over wiggle progress and also the flip-flop one as well. Throwing those two together, basically meaning the killer has a very hard time trying to get you anywhere. If I have missed any survivors that people think should be prestiged as soon as possible, please drop those down in the comment section below. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will see everyone next time.